Here we go on Restream, it looks like. In theory. Now let's go over here to YouTube, sponsored by Yahoo.
Really?
And we're going to go promptly on time. This one's for you, Tom, because the weekend producer tries his very, very best. And I'm not going to say, yes, we're live. Not going to say anything to jinx myself. Thank you, everybody that gave me the passwords and whatever to fix Restream. We're good to go. We're live. We'll let people meander in. We will let everybody catch up. I can now breathe a little easier. Reminder, we've got all sorts of NFL content tomorrow. We are doing 3 hours of shows right before lock. Wait for it, the 3 hours before lock. And that will start at 10 a.m. We also have a live before lock NFL. That will be with Greg Ehrenberg. And TBD, I have a little event that got pushed up from a couple weeks out, so I won't be on Sunday night, but you'll get me back on Monday night. And then what else do we have, Terry? Oh, you're making your second NFL show, correct?
I am.
Excellent.
I'll be on the injury show again tomorrow at 11:30, I think. Every time in the middle of that big 3-hour block of NFL content we've got in the morning, we come on with the injuries.
That is crucial information to have for everybody. We've knock on wood, everything's been pretty good. We've got some news today, and we'll get to the MLB. I promise you, and we're gonna hit it hard and fast because we've got 11 games. I just want people to come in, and then I don't want to hear you didn't talk about this, you didn't talk about that, because we're gonna bullet through this. But we have an hour and 4 minutes until lock. We'll start in about 3 minutes here. But we do have the NFL. Yahoo sponsors us. They have the $350,000 baller. The injury information has not been bad yet. We got some of it today. I mean, we already know that Kittle's out. George Kittle's out. We know that Godwin's out. We know that Baby Megatron is out. I haven't switched over to remembering everybody's names just yet. So, all of a sudden we're looking at Danny Amendola, Scotty Miller, Marlon Mack's out. Who knows what the Redskins are doing? Pardon me, the Washington football team. Burp! Find me for that.
I'm on a baseball pod.
Yeah. That's I'm checking all the boxes here. But in my mind, I just have the greatest cameo. Second to Bob Hope, and you and I have talked about this before. Second to Bob Hope in Spies Like Us. No one's going to know the Bob Hope cameo. They might know Spies Like Us. I was a kid when I saw that movie, and I knew who Bob Hope was because he always had the Bob Hope special. And this is back when we had like 6 channels, and that was with cable way back in the day in the tiny little town I lived in. So I was like, wait, why is Bob Hope here? And my mom's like, well, it's called a cameo. I'm like, I don't a what? And so she had to explain it to me and my brother because we were probably, 9 or 10 years old, and he was a couple years younger than me. And then we finally got it that it's just someone who shows up in a movie without really, it's a wink and a nod. Sort of like Stan Lee in all of the comic book movies that he's had a part of. So they had, we had a Matt Damon. Scotty doesn't know. I don't even know what the movie, European Road Trip or something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome scene.
That's good. That song's gonna be stuck in my. I'll be walking around 4 hours from now, middle of the night, just no. I guarantee it. It'll be in my head. Did you know that speaking of Stan Lee and all those cameos, that technically that makes him the highest grossing actor of all time? Because he's in every single movie up until he died.
I did not. That is pretty cool, actually. That is pretty cool. All right, now. What do we got here? 1, hit that like button. 2, we're sponsored by YouTube. And 3, we're gonna hit on this. We got 11 games. That's 22 pitchers. We're the only baseball show today. We have all sorts of content. We'll drop some links towards that. But let's just jump right in right now. The first game we're going to talk about is St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Now, I don't know what to do with Kwang Young Kim. Seems interesting. He is going against Pittsburgh. He is 7,500 on DK. We have Coors Field. We need a secondary pitcher. I know what I'm going to do with Mitch Keller, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. What are you doing with Mr. Kim here?
So he's pitching well on the surface. You know, he's given up no earned runs, I think, in 4 starts now. So it's like a 0.63 ERA on the season. But then you look over down the column and his xFIP is 4.72. So he's getting really lucky. He's a 1.93 BABIP against. So he's just like, there's a lot of balls in play that are getting sucked up by the defense and you know, getting hit where they are instead of hit where they ain't. He's only a 15.5% strikeout, 8.7% swinging strikes. I was looking at his repertoire, trying to see how he's been getting by and not allowing runs. And there's just really nothing special about the dude. So, like, for me, it's not really a big time pitcher play. Against the Pirates, you can get to anybody. So, yeah, we can justify it based on that. Maybe roll him in some shares as an SP2. Just looking across at the top pitcher tool, he ranks near the bottom on both sites for Alex. So it's not really a play that Alex looks excited about, despite the good matchup. And he's drawing around level ownership with what he's at. The Pirates are 25th in baseball, 142 ISO against lefties, 5% above average WRC plus though, and they only strike out 21.8% of the time in the split. So it's kind of like a go away spot on both sides for me. I don't think I want the bats. I don't think I want the pitcher.
All right. So what I am going to say next is going to be kind of fun. I am not a fan of Mr. Keller. Now this is interesting. This is for this season. So here's why. Let me get to my notes here. So I said, while this is not a sexy spot, the Redbirds do provide some contrarian stack appeal. Keller has had a rough go of things this season, allowing 2 home runs in each of his last 2 starts. He's made 3 starts total this year. While the 24-year-old has just 52 innings under his belt between this year and last season in the show, they have been mostly uninspiring, albeit with one silver lining. We're going to get to that. Even with the 6.75 ERA, 1.8 whip, and 10 home runs allowed, he has an 11 strikeout per 9 rate. That was like 13 in high AA and AAA last year, and it's potentially there. I think he profiles better as a 2 or 3 inning reliever, or dare we say an opener. I think they're just seeing what they have this year, kind of a lost season for them. I want the lefties against him. He just absolutely gets his lunch eaten by lefties. 127 lefties have a 22% strikeout rate, so that's about league average. 2.1 home runs per 9, 230 ISO. 145 righties have a 30% K rate, a 1 home run per 9, and a 220 ISO. So they're still getting him for power, but the ball's not going over the yard. It's doubles, etc. So I want the lefties with the Redbirds, and they're more of a contrarian stack. So let's see where the lineup came in. They did us a favor. They put 3 up top. That's going to help us out. We've got Wong, we've got Edmund, and we've got Brad Miller. No Chris. I'm doing sports in different decades now. No Carpenter, Matt Carpenter, not Chris Carpenter. All Chris Carpenter does is catch touchdowns. Matt Carpenter, on the other hand, all he did a couple years ago was hit home runs, set a career high. But I want those 3. I'm still not fired up for them because they're basically adjacent. I'm okay with it, but I would skip Goldschmidt out of these stacks. I wouldn't go more than those. Do you have anything else you want to add on this? Reminder: we have 10 more games to go.
Yeah, we'll talk fast.
We're always thorough, but we got 10 more games to go.
We do have 10 games, so I will talk fast. I'm probably more enthusiastic about Keller just because I'm a Keller guy. I love his stuff. I'm only at 5,700 on DraftKings, 6,200 on FanDuel. I can get to it. His innings limit is probably going to be an issue. He's probably only going to go like 4 innings though. So I don't know how much I want to get to it, but as a very inexpensive guy that we can jam in, hope we get those 4 full innings and hope he puts up a nice strikeout start. It's really all about hoping. He's got excellent stuff. Like I said, super heavy spin fastball, plus slider, plus curve, 11.8 swinging strikes last year through the minors. This year he's just at 6.9%. So he's got some issues as far as getting people to swing and miss. Cards just 136 ISO against righties, 96 WRC plus, 23% strikeout, but 10% walk. So tough spot for him, but very cheap. I can mix and match him in. I prefer the Cardinals side of it as the bats go, like you were saying, though, as a sneaky stack. And I think they rank out pretty well on the stack tool as well. They're like 8th in the stack tool. So good spot for the bats. And I agree on the lefties.
Yes. We now have our next game, Dallas Keuchel and Trevor Bauer. We have our clear number 1 pitcher of the day, Trevor Bauer, because Mike Clevenger was just scratched, Terry. So we will have Luis Patino will be making the spot start / opener / whatever. We'll get to that when we get to the Mariners, but that takes a huge option off the board. Now we've got Bauer going into the teeth of one of the best offenses in the league. However, if you haven't looked, would you be willing to guess at what the White Sox implied run total is?
Against Bauer, since you're asking, I guess it's up 4-6.
3.8.
No, you're asking me for that. I was thinking it was like crazy high for some reason.
No, I think it's crazy low. When was the last time we saw the White Sox below like 4.5? And if it wasn't a doubleheader,
I thought we were talking about it the other way around. Since it's Trevor Bauer, I thought you were going to say it was high. Yeah, 3.8. I can get behind that. Lights out this year. Among the other things he does very well, he's inducing a ridiculous amount of soft contact too. So it's just he only allows 25.6% hard contact. Just an absolute dominant pitcher right now. 37.4% strikeouts, 6.8% walks. Just ridiculous. 3.11 xFIP to his 1.71 ERA. So there's a tiny bit of luck in there, but I mean he is just dominant. The White Sox, as good as they are, only 16th in baseball with a 1.73 ISO against righties. The WRC plus is still 7% above average. So they're good at creating runs, but there's a 25.3% strikeout rate for this team against right-handed pitching. So Bauer could put up a nice strikeout game, and he's very good at limiting the runs. So, yeah, I think that's probably about right for the White Sox. And it's keeping me away from them as a stack, which is very rare, as we know through this season. That's a team I love to go to. Just taking a look in this top stacks tool, it looks like it pretty much jives with what Alex is getting as well. They rank bottom third on FanDuel and like the top of the bottom third on DraftKings. Not drawing much ownership on either site, but again, not a great probability of success.
All right. Sorry, I was laughing at chat. I'm drinking Diet Pepsi. I believe Terry's drinking coffee. My wife was up to go to the airport at 5 a.m. this morning, which means my dog was up trying to tell me that she was leaving, which I already knew, but the dog didn't know that I knew apparently, so I'm tired. I'm a little rummy. But we also have an NBA show kicking off, or tipping off, at 7:45 that will be featuring Adam Ship My Money Share up until lock, so you'll want to check that out on this same channel. Apparently I'm not authorized to go look at my my Yahoo account, but now it says I'm okay. I want to point out Yahoo sponsoring the show tonight. They've got most of their contests are just about filling up for baseball, but they are running 2-day basketball contests. There's a little bit of overlay in those because people aren't quite aware of that yet. And then they have the $350,000 baller tomorrow for NFL. That will be $35,000 the first $10 entry, $150 entry max. And for those of you that have not played over there, different pricing like it is for all the other sports. There are good ways to play this and there are foolish ways to play this. So you want to play it the good way. I'm going to drop a link to my free article in front of the paywall, and I have been writing articles I think now for 3 seasons. This is my 4th season writing for Yahoo DFS for football between FanVice and now Awesemo. But I do want to point out that each of the last 3 years I have had 2 per year $1,000 weekends, and I usually only play 10 or 20 lineups. That's profit for those weekends, so I've done pretty well. So I'm just saying, winnable contests. Now, last year was the first year they went the 150 max. I still had a $1,700 weekend on there because I had the absolute nuts with Will Fuller. Whatever week he went crazy and had a Thursday to Monday game stack, and if I had just tweaked any of my players that I had on Monday night, I would have won about $5,000, but I did not. So that happens. But just saying, you don't have to play a lot of money over there. You can still have some nice upside. We saw Ship My Money with the $100,000 weekend over there last year for football as well. So just saying, we've got great projections. We've got good strategy. We've got content on it. Definitely check that out. They're the sponsor of the show and the most trusted name in fantasy sports. No Dallas Keuchel for me. Not really excited to go against him. Do you want to mention anything else from this game? I can't believe we're just waving off these two offenses, but there's what, a 7.5 implied run total right now? Not very good.
Yeah, and it's two guys that are excellent at limiting runs. My note before when I was talking about Bauer actually was fully written because it referred back to Keuchel, who we hadn't talked about yet. But Keuchel induces 56% ground balls. That's down a little bit this year, but it's still an excellent number. And he allows just 24.6% hard contact, which is second best to Maeda. And then the next couple guys on that list are Fried, Bauer on the other side of this game, who we just talked about the hard contact that he limits, and then Wheeler, Hendricks, Hauser, Mills, who's going later in the slate against the Twins. So that's a good list of people. It's just a spot where I expect both offenses to really be limited by these pitchers. And I think there is some room for Keuchel in my lineups. He's at a decent price. Reds are ninth against lefties with 191 ISO, but their WRC plus is only 86, so 14% below average, and they strike out 26% of the time against lefties. Keuchel's not a big strikeout pitcher, but I think he can work within that. We've seen him boost his strikeouts in certain spots. So his swinging strikes are up by a little bit from like 8.1 to 10.1 this year. So he's getting a little bit more swinging strikes, but his strikeouts overall are down, which is a little strange. But I think he could have a good game here. So I think nobody's really going to him. He doesn't grade out well for Alex. So this is one that's coming from me, and you guys should always defer to the boss when we disagree. But I think I can get some Keuchel in my life, and he's drawing absolutely no ownership in this spot. So for me, that's one that's in play that might not be one that.
Yeah, and especially losing Clevenger, that is, we now have to start figuring out where we're going to put 40 to 50% of our pitching, because that option is now gone. So we may be having a little fun with some of these other options here. All right, let me get started doing two windows, but let me consolidate over here to one and bring over my data. Okay, so I skipped sort of, depending on what order we're looking at, the Atlanta and Metropolitans game. That would be the New York Mets. Ian Anderson, 8,900. I'm not excited about that, but the Mets do have a 3.8 implied run total, which sort of kind of puts him in play, but not really. David Peterson on the other side, not exciting. Atlanta has a, 5 and change, 4.8 implied run total. They went nuts last night, 6 home runs, I believe. My co-host talked about them in his articles. Thank you. That hooked me up. Won a few contests last night in the low dollar pocket change world, which, by the way, that adds up quickly. If you are at the top, thank you, Terry, for that. What do you want to do with this pair of teams? Feels like a sprinkle them in. Considering we have 22 games, there are better spots. This just isn't the one I'm excited on for either team. Do you sense weakness in either of these pitchers, and how do you want to attack? Because I'm not playing the pitchers.
Yeah, I think you're right on Anderson. It's more price based for Anderson. I think he's just a little expensive at that 89 mark on DraftKings, and I think he's definitely expensive at 10-1 on FanDuel. But the kid is pitching pretty well. The Mets roster is 12th in baseball with a 181 ISO, 122 WRC plus in the split though. So they're in a pretty good spot. He could be in a tough spot for that money. So yeah, I'm not really on either pitcher. Peterson, the Mets are trying to limit him and not let him see the lineup more than 2 times. So he's going to be out after 4 or 5 innings, and possibly a lot less than that with this Braves lineup. Alex seems like he's getting a little bit bigger numbers on the Braves than I am. They're in kind of that, good, not amazing range for me. But going by the top stacks tool, they rank 3rd on DK, and they're drawing, once again, a third of the ownership that they should be. Similar situation over on FanDuel. So they're popping a little bit for Alex. I like to see that, and I like to see it when nobody's on them. So I think that's going to boost the Braves in my overall distributions and how much I'm getting to this team. It's another team that I love to get to, and top to bottom, they are just very, very good. They've got Travis d'Arnaud and Flowers in the lineup again, so they've got that wacky dual catcher configuration that can make things weird and different. Flowers is hitting 9th today, though, as opposed to in the middle of the lineup. But just seriously, 1 through 9, there's not a hitter that I wouldn't play in this lineup. So, yeah, I like that spot a lot.
All right. Our next game, we have some fun here. We have the Diamondbacks in Houston taking on the Astros. It looks like the roof will be open in at Astros. What are they, Minute Maid Park still? Minute Maid Field? I've lost track.
I think it's still that name.
In any event, it's going to be about 80 to 84 for the first half of the game. We have a 5.5 implied run total for the Houston Astros. They're going against Luke Weaver. I was not sure what to do with Mr. Weaver. He is carrying some just que horrible numbers on the back of his baseball card. However, he has allowed just 1 home run in his last 4 starts, 2 in his last 6. This is a guy that was getting destroyed early. I'm still looking at this with is it Antonio Banderas in Assassins? Was that the movie where he's got the meme picture where he's just like, oh, this is a good one. I kind of want the Astros in this one. Christian Javier on the other side, I'm going to be playing Jose Urquidy tomorrow. I believe he's coming up in the rotation. But what do you want to do with the Astros pitcher and hitters? Because it's not going to be the Diamondbacks for me today.
Yeah, with you on that. Not the Diamondbacks bats, not the Luke Weaver side of things. Weaver doesn't really have an out pitch to left-handed hitters. He's given up 6 home runs on his fastball, 2 on his changeup. No real breaking ball to speak of in that split. So, I just don't like it very much. He's given up 9 home runs overall, 7 of them to lefties. So maybe a couple of the big lefty bats in the Astros lineup are definitely in play. And I just like the overall stack for the Astros. So I think we can get to that. I was getting great power marks on them. Part of that is because of all the home runs that we would give up earlier in the season, but he did give those up. This is that same guy. So Bregman was my home run call for the night. I get a great mark on him. A little bit higher, actually, on Springer. I don't always take the highest overall guy, so I like the 2 of them. And then you get a nice mix of lefties with Brantley, with Kyle Tucker, down to Josh Reddick down the bottom of the lineup. So this is another team that maybe not 1 through 9 because there's an Mlb Dfs in there. I don't love Martin Maldonado, even though he's only 0.1% owned as a catcher and not that expensive on DK. Those are mix and match type guys, but maybe 7 out of the 9 hitters I'll play in basically any situation in this spot. So I like this Astros lineup a lot, and it doesn't seem like too many people are really going that direction. They're a little bit pricey, but not prohibitively so. So I'm surprised that the ownership's not really through the roof on them.
Quick question: do you have Mlb Dfs splits up handy? My Excel, I did something and it's frozen. What is he against righties? I seem to remember I don't know that reverse splits is the right word for him, but he is sneaky as hell against righties. I thought.
Radar, but let me see. Let's see. Come on, Fangraphs. Against righties, Diaz has hit 42 of his 53 career home runs. Looks like he's got a career slash. Yeah, he's definitely better against Sam-handed pitching. 288, 335, 485, and a 117 WRC plus.
All right, he's the guy you want if we ever face Jaime Barria. you put those reverse splits together and get some goodness. That's not tonight, but I do want to point out that Diaz is someone to kind of keep an eye on. Yuli Gurriel, if I remember correctly, as well, had trouble with lefties when he first came over from Cuba, but that is sort of normalized a little bit, so he's still just as good against righties. And the lefties caught up, similar to Jose Abreu. A fun note. I don't know if that's something that they're not seeing enough lefties or whatever, or quality lefties with the breaking stuff in Cuba before they come over here. That, of course, has changed now that people don't necessarily have to sneak over, go to Mexico, and then cross the border here and have fun forging passports and stuff. That was a different day, different era. You remember when people used to have travel issues coming back from the winter when it was like. As a kid, I never understood that, but of course now I do. That means they were questioning their birth certificate and their papers because they were forged. It wasn't travel issues.
Yeah, that's gotten a little bit better over the years, but there are still some guys out there who I suspect are a few years older than.
I've told you this before, but I wanted Julio Franco so badly to announce he was 50 when he retired. I'm convinced he's 5 to 7 years older than he should be. All right. I think that. All right, not to shortchange him, but anything from the Diamondback side. The whole team's kind of slumping at this point. I can't even really recommend one off.
Yeah, not for me. I do like the Javier spot, though. Okay. I think he's in a decent spot. He was a good strikeout pitcher through the minor leagues. He's at 24.3% so far in the show. So he's maintaining that, and he's only doing it with 7.9% swinging strikes so far this year. And that was like a mid to high teens number for him in the minors when he was getting like 30 to 40% strikeouts. So he's still kind of getting it done as a rookie in the show without really having that stuff that he's used to having. So I'm kind of impressed, and I think we can play him. He does have a 5.11 up, 15.322 ERA, so there's a little luck baked in there. 1.71 batting average on balls in play against. So I'm not necessarily going by all of that, but I think he could have a decent game against what I think is a bad lineup. 18th in baseball with a 1.63 ISO in the split, only an 86 WRC plus, so 14% worse than average creating runs, 21.5% strikeout against righties, so they don't strike out a ton. But I think there's enough there that this kid could get a decent game for us. And just going by his price, he's 7,800 on DK, 7,500 on FanDuel. I like it better as an SP2 and a guy that nobody's really going to. So he's a guy who's definitely in play for me over on DraftKings. He's around the middle of the board for Alex on the top starters tool, but not showing much ownership. So it's a good spot from that perspective.
All right. They're laughing at me saying, am I drinking Long Island iced tea? You know what the funniest thing was when I first had a Long Island iced tea that I suddenly realized? There's no tea in it.
No tea, lots of alcohol, yeah.
I didn't know. I just thought it was tea. I'm like, well, I like tea, but I like sun tea. And then I moved out. I never knew what sweet tea was till I moved out to Virginia, which, we're slightly above the Mason-Dixon line, but barely where I live. I never knew what sweet tea was. Ew. It's another way to get sugar in your body, I guess. So anyway, all right. Let us, and Brian Buckley, you're my favorite today. I just want you to know that. Okay, let's go on to our next game. Here, we've got... I want to make sure I didn't miss anything because there were these random 707 games. We are on the 710 games. We have the Royals versus the Brewers. All of a sudden, Corbin Burns is very much in play at $8,000. I suspect we're going to see his ownership pop up there with the loss of Clevenger. I think a lot of people are going to move there and then go for another Coors Field bat, even with 11 games on the slate. Bubic on the other side. Kind of interesting. Kind of. We've worshipped, we've hated, and then we've become neutral on the Brew Crew against both lefties and righties, in my opinion. Everything's consolidated right now in their first, 3 or 4 hitters. I'm okay with Avisal Garcia and a couple others there up at the top. I haven't looked at their lineup. But, yeah, I think this game for me is the pitching. Let me see. Oh, Braun did make the lineup. Keston Hiura, surprisingly, doesn't have as much power as one would think against righties, especially at that $5,000 price tag on DraftKings. I would rather go to somewhere in Coors Field. But Braun and Avisal Garcia and Christian Yelich, by the way, Christian Yelich last 2.5 seasons, I want to say a 276 ISO against lefties. You can play him against lefties. Former MVP. But everybody else in that lineup, nah wave.
So, just real quick, I've got different.
Who's your pitcher?
Which is a lefty.
He's
right?
a lefty. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's weird. I've got him as a lefty in one spot and a righty in another spot. And I'm not
thought, yes, and that happened.
You just crossed me up while you were talking about it, so I wanted to make sure we were saying the right thing.
I think I was looking at your source when I went to do his stacks, and I'm like, he's a righty. I'm seeing lefty on 2 of the 3 sites now.
Yeah,
I thought he was a lefty.
Right, yeah. And that's what I wrote up for him and everything. So that's where I was. And that's okay, yeah. So that just
hashtag 2020.
But,
no, I did the exact same thing this morning. The exact same thing you just said. Dude, okay, I'm getting old and senile. I'm not 50 yet, guys. I'm getting old and senile, but I thought I knew he was a lefty.
So yeah, the Brewers, like you hit pretty much everybody in that lineup. We can get to the top of it against the lefty here for sure. Those top 4 hitters. Here is still a guy I like, but you're right. He hasn't been hitting for much power this year. He does have a 234 overall. Yeah, no, sorry. Here is hitting for power. He's at a 234 overall ISO.
Go look at his last 2+ seasons.
All right. I don't have that in front of me, but regardless.
Well, let me double check. Maybe I was. Damn it, we're off the rails. I could be wrong too, because maybe I was looking righty. Let me go look. You analyze. I'm gonna go look.
The Brewers overall 215 ISO against lefties, 118 WRC plus. We know that much. 25.8% strikeout rate, 12.6% walk rate. I don't think it's a good spot to get the Bubic, but I can get to some of those bats that we're talking about. Either way with Hira, he's only going at 0.1% owned as of my last update. He costs $5,000, so I can build him into stacks whether or not he's got a lot of power. He does have 13 home runs on the year, so there's power in that bat. Whether it's appeared in the split, EMac will tell us in a minute. But I think we can get to some of these bats. Yelich is another guy not drawing a ton of ownership. You're paying up to be different with a superstar, and we know the guy is a superstar. So I can justify some of them. And then I'm not going to the Royals at all against Burns on the other side. I think we can get to a lot of Burns here. He has just been pitching lights out also. Pulling him back up now. He's a 30.5% strikeout rate guy for his career, 37.2% this year, just dominating over his 50 innings. 311 xFIP to his 1.980 ERA. Just very, very well. 10 strikeouts in just 4 2/3 against St. Louis his last time out. 11 strikeouts in 7 innings against the lowly Tigers before that. Looks like EMax dug up a gem for us here. So what'd you find?
I'm double checking. It's well below 200 against left.
Okay, so in the split, he's not been getting it done. All right.
That's so. 130 over his 55 plate appearances this year, and then last year, or counting last year, let's see, it was 83.
So he's another guy who's getting all his power in same-handed matchups. Then.
Yeah. Again, that was one I in my mind thought he rakes against in righty-lefty matchups, and that's not the case.
Yeah, that's good information. That had not hit my radar, so I'm glad.
Will he get there? Talented kid, yes. Yeah. Most likely. Will he grow into it? Yes. Right now, just want you to know, it's not what you think it is, and it's not that far ahead of Terry and I, so...
That is very surprising. Going back to Burns, it's kind of a no-brainer play at the price, too. I think he's got a great strikeout opportunity. Royals against him, 155 ISO, is 22nd in baseball, 24.2% strikeout rate in the split, 91 WRC plus. Big spot for Burns. I think he could put up a very nice start. A lot of people are going to him, though. He was at 44.4% ownership, doubling his probability of being a top 2 starter on DK before the Clevenger news. So I can't imagine what he is now. I don't know if we've got the latest update, but he's going to be super popular. So tricky spot.
All right, I finally went to Wikipedia. I wanted a completely neutral site. Chris Bubic, bats left and throws left. I'm going with that because weird.
I'm just going to lock that into my player ID tab here right now, so this never happens again.
Yeah, and just say, guys, sorry that we're off on the rails on this one, but that's one of those weird ones where it happens. We thought it was the other way, but then we started seeing righties, and then you just start to question everything, and you get inside your own head. It's called paralysis by analysis, and we don't want to get there. So, but we're going to keep continuing on here, and
Burns is the story of that game.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Do you want to mention it? So, not excited about the Royals. I'm not even really looking for an insurance stack there. I really want to go with Burns. Price, 100%. Losing Clevenger, 2-pitcher side. It's pitch counts up. Strikeouts are kind of up. He's sort of shaking that mess of where am I a starter? Am I a reliever? How hard can I throw? When am I going to run out of gas? What happens my third time through the order? Oh shit! What happens my second time through the order? It's all. This is what the Brewers were hoping for when they put him into the starting role. We're getting it now. We didn't get it in a lot of the other starts.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the guy, like I said before, the guy put up a 10 strikeout performance in just 4 2/3 the other day. So it's very real, and he could do it even if he just puts up a 5-inning start here. So I like the upside for him very, very much.
All right, next game. Gosh, we're only in the 7:30 games. That's because most of the games are kind of early tonight. We have the Yankees. We have Boston. Chris Mazza. Okay, done with him. J.A. Happ, done with him as well. What do you want to do with the hitters here? It is going to be in the mid-50s in Boston tonight. However, we still have a 10 implied run total. 5.8 for the Yankees going against Mazza. They've just been on an absolute tear right now. And then on the other side, even the semi-watered down Boston team has a 4.3 implied run total. We know that J-Hap doesn't get blown up, but he still gives up home runs. JD Martinez is owed like 5 more home runs between now and the end of the season. Is he going to get them? Single solitary tear rolling down my cheek because the end of the season is next Sunday.
Yeah, today seriously. Yeah, by the way, I wrote that in my column. Welcome to the last week of the baseball season. Sunday don't count in MLB DFS anymore. So 1 week from today is your last MLB DFS slate. So until the playoffs, of course. But yeah, I'm all over the bats in this one. I think we can play both sides of it. I don't really have much love for J-Hap, even though he's a Yankee. I think some of these Red Sox are in play. There's a weird story that popped up last night. Somebody linked it. Might have been the news god in Slack about Martinez and complaining about his lack of being able to review video between at bats. Baseball's not allowing you to do that this year. So he's saying maybe that's affecting his ability to make adjustments in game. That's a big part of his process. So that's a unique little thing that popped up on my radar. A little bit narrative. I get a great home run mark for him. J-Hap does give up the long ball, so I think Martinez has a very good shot at getting one here. And I like the top of that lineup overall. Kristen Royal, I'll take her leave leading off, but Devers, Bogarts, Martinez, even Plawecki plays a little bit well in that 5 spot as a catcher who nobody's touching on DK at 3,700. And then I like getting down Bobby Dahlbeck. He's a contact. He's a guy who is one of those, when he makes contact, he's driving the ball really well kind of guys as a rookie in his 59 plate appearances so far. So I think there's things we can build with there. The Yanks lineup isn't their A-plus lineup. No Stanton, no Torres tonight, no Sanchez. But I think we can still work with a lot of the pieces. It's the version of Brett Gardner that hits third in this lineup. You mentioned he's hit in every spot except the leadoff position this year. I think that's still true. Gardner's 3,200 on DK, enjoying 30% ownership as of my last update. For me, I love Brett, but that's kind of maybe an easy skip if you want to get different with this Yankees lineup awfully quickly. Maybe just skip over Gardy. You can play him for sure, and he should be a part of some stacks, but it's an easy way to differentiate things. I like Clint Frazier a lot better for 4,500 at 1.6% ownership, 2-3 spots later in the lineup. And then you can get different with like Mike Tauchman down at the bottom of the order. He's got some pop. We saw Kyle Higashioka hit 3 home runs the other night. He's drawing like 16% ownership, of course, today because of that. But there's some cheap prices in this order tonight, and I think you can combine them with some of the LeMahieu's, the Judges, the Voights of the world, and
all right, we got a little promo here. All right. So here we go. So we have what's called express passes here at Awesemo. I was just trying to read through the read to make sure that it is for it's still active here. It is. So you can get an Awesemo plus NFL Weekly Express package for $1. Use the promo code WEEK, the number 2, Express to activate your Weekly Express pack for $1. Now you'll want to double check this, but because it's not the full suite of everything, but again, it's just $1 for this week. But you get player rankings, ownership rankings, lineup builder light, the top stacks express tool, plus the premium articles, and Alex's NFL big board. So basically you get everything except actual ownership percentages and actual player projection percentages, or player projection points. You literally get everything else for NFL for $1. Now, what Alex does on these express things, he ranks them for you and gives them a grade. So basically, you can create your player pool and do what you would like with it. Now, if I was someone who wanted to see what Alex was doing and really wanted those projections, I'd go look at like ESPN or Yahoo. They're okay. Look at their actual projections and then see where Alex has the players ranked. And the big board is something that's very cool. Literally ranks all of the players so you can get a relative value for them. It's good for season long. It's good for DFS. It's good for everything. Just $1. Promo code, this one's a little tricky. WEEK, WEEK, 2, the number 2, Express. Check it out for $1. All right. And that's going to be our last ad read for the game. You're welcome. Anything else from the Bo Sox and Yankees?
I think we hit most of the major marks. I mean, people always wonder, Jackie Bradley down the bottom of that lineup. Bradley's probably going to see a couple bullpen at bats here, so he's in play for me for sure. Devers, I don't worry about any splits or anything like that with. So, yeah, I think you can roll out a lot of these Red Sox against Hap. But I think we hit most of the major points.
All right. I'm just double checking. I could have sworn I wrote up Tampa Bay today. That must have been yesterday. I know you wrote them up in your overnight because I was reading that before our show. And I was like, damn it, I should have checked his article because I wrote them up. I didn't. I do remember listing a laundry list of players from Tampa Bay that are on the injured list. There are quite a few of them.
Yeah.
I think they're very much in play. I'm sad. I was all like, yeah, Hebe and Choi and a few other people here. Do you just take this one away? Because I really like Tampa Bay as a contrarian stack. Are people going to be on it? And what do you want to do with these moving parts? These no names, because they are no names.
So I like the spot quite a bit, and they rank pretty well on the top stacks tool as well. Lopez, not much of a pitcher for my money. 18.5% career strikeout rate, 151 career home run per 9. This year he's 16.7% strikeout rate in his 31 innings, so I guess it's up a little bit, but that's still not very much. 4.76 xFIP to his 5.23 ERA, so he's gotten a little unlucky, but again, not a good number either way. Last year, 123 and 2/3 innings, he gave up 27 home runs, 15 of them to lefties, 12 of them to righties. He's generous to both sides of the plate with power, so we don't really worry too much about the splits. Rays, great target in this spot, 7th in baseball with a 186 ISO against righties, 107 WRC+. They strike out a little bit, 25.6%, but this guy doesn't strike anybody out, so I'm not really sweating that too much. 10.8% walk rate. I think we can see some patience out of these hitters. So, yeah, even with some of the absences in this lineup, there are still bats I like. Brendan Lowe hitting second. Yoshi Tatsugo leading off has a decent amount of pop in that bat. And then you can get down to some of the sneakier lefties like a Joey Wendell, a Nate Lowe, Brett Phillips, a Kevin Kiermaier. They can just pack this lineup with some lefties. Not the most expensive guys in the world. $2,700 for Kiermaier, I like a lot. $2,600 for Brett Phillips, I like a lot. Nate Lowe is going reasonably over-owned at 28.5%. Another guy in the middle of the lineup who's getting a ton of attention, kind of like Brett Gardner was. I think he's a better hitter in this spot than Gardner's opportunity is probably. But again, that's an easy spot to maybe skip over and get different quick with what is a fairly popular stack. But he does have a very nice price and a good opportunity. The other thing I like about this team, tons of position flex. There's 4 guys in the starting lineup on DK with positional flexibility. So you can put the team together in a lot of different ways and get to different kinds of constructions with your other stacks. So I think the Rays are very much in play.
All right, making sure I am not muted. So we got 23 minutes now to go. I did find one more ad read I'm supposed to do. Get me up to 100 likes, and I'll forget I found it. Ooh. I think that's a fair trade-off. We're still waiting for the Padres lineup. We are now heading into... What do you want to do with Charlie Morton? You didn't mention him, right? The underlying metrics are there. Baltimore is plucky as hell, but a 3.6 implied run total, and they're missing anybody of note. I wish Chris Davis was in their lineup. He's not. Is he a coach at this point, or is he just at home?
Yeah, I think maybe. Well, I mean, would you want Chris Davis to be your hitting coach?
No, I'd want him to be a roving instructor somewhere in high A ball, but there's no minor league baseball this year.
True. You mentioned the friskiness. Orioles 14th with a 177 ISO, but a nice 107 WRC+, so above average creating runs against righties. 22.7% strikeout rate, not god awful, certainly not near the top of the league. Only 7.5% walks, so a little bit of lack of patience. A lot of young hitters in the lineup. Somebody's giving us a little theme song outside to talk over while I'm talking here. But with Morton, he's hoping to go 5 was the note. So coming back from injury, he's made 3 starts, but only gone 11 1/3 total innings. So I don't know what the leash is like. His velocity's still down a little bit. He's still not necessarily commanding his stuff the same way. 11.2% swinging strikes so far this year, which is down from 12.9. Still above average, still a good number, but I just don't know how much I trust him. He's getting hit a little bit hard. Only getting 37% ground balls. That's normally in like the mid to high 40s for him. So things are still a little bit off. I don't know how much I want to go to him. Don't know how much we need to go to him. But with Clevenger coming off the board, he's another guy who's probably more in play than he was originally on the slate.
All right. Now we're on to the Coors Field extravaganza. I actually wrote them up tonight just because there was really nothing else exciting to do. So I made them my bonus play. You always can play Coors Field. Absolutely. We saw last night what can happen. Though I believe were there 2 or 3 home runs by the Dodgers last night. There weren't nearly as many, and Atlanta ended up actually being a better stack because they had 6 home runs. But nonetheless, the boys in blue did not disappoint, Terry. 15 runs across 5 different Rockies pitchers. My article says, tune in tonight to see how many times I refer to Chichi Gonzalez as Chichi Rodriguez. Josh and I did that last year, and he actually knew who Chichi Rodriguez was, the golfer from a long time ago, and his whole thing was he would do the little twirling Zorro thing with his putter, and then he would put it in. And it was like the cockiest move ever, but he was such the nicest guy, no one ever gave him shit about it, no one ever seemed mad about it, which is wild because that would not happen in today's game. But I screwed up on the thing, and then we both went into the little sword putter wave at the same time, unbeknownst that the other was doing it. So, in any event, tonight, Chichi Gonzalez, on and off, he's been in the majors for 5 years. He has made 2 starts this year, 2 relief appearances. He's managed to last just 9 1/3 innings. He's allowed 10 runs to score, 9 earned, 7 walks, 10 strikeouts. Last 174 righty-righty matchups have yielded a 1.6 home run per 9, 9.2 walk rate. Same period, 150 lefties, 1.7 home run per 9, 16% walk rate. Play them all. That's all I've got from this game. Do you like Clayton Kershaw now that we've lost Clevenger?
I think we can roll with some Kershaw. I never love playing the away starters in Coors. We've talked about that before. If I play starters there, it's typically the guys who get a fair amount of their starts in Coors. But I was curious about it since it's Kershaw, so I pulled up his career numbers in Coors.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was trying to find them.
Yeah, it's weird with career splits by stadium. The best place I found to go to it is actually our sponsor, Yahoo. Yahoo on their player pages compiles it and actually gives you, they don't have the advanced, but at least you get ERA for all his starts, and you can go and easily sort by career. So a little point for the sponsor there. So 22 starts, 133 innings at Coors. He's got a 4.60 ERA, 1.29 WHIP, which are not Kershaw-esque numbers, but they're also not awful for Coors Field. He's given up 19 home runs, which is a 1.29 home run per 9. Struck out 130, which is an 8.80 strikeout per 9. So, again, not Kershaw-esque, but not tragic, not Coors Field-esque either. He is an elite pitcher, so we can kind of expect that he might be able to get by. He basically throws 3 pitches now, fastball, slider, curveball. He can get by with just the 2, with just the fastball and the slider, and not sweat throwing the curve too much, because the curve is the pitch out of those that's not going to work as well for him here. Rockies just 17th in baseball against lefties with a 1.72 ISO, below average run creation at 94 WRC+. McMahon and Blackman, both good lefties against the lefty if you're stacking Rockies, which you should do. But I think we can definitely roll out a little bit of Kershaw and be conservative about it and not get our hopes up, but we might be able to get a decent start out of him here.
Oops. All right. So we're not playing Gonzalez. That much is obvious. So Bellinger's my number 1 play. Muncy's probably 2. Then it's going to be Turner back off the injured list. He's been back for a little bit, but he's going to be next. I don't know where to go after that because Mookie Betts at 6,100. I don't think that's wrong. I don't know that I want to pay it. AJ Pollock at 43. He is much better against righties than people give him credit for. I guess I would prefer him over Betts, which is something I rarely would say, but when you're getting nearly a 33% discount on DraftKings, you kind of have to. And then the bottom of the order, what do you like from the boys in blue here?
Yeah, I think we can get to most of these Dodgers that way that you're talking about. And again, it's going to come down to a question of ownership. We talked about it on last night's Live Before Lock. We talked about how you're going along with a third of the field, basically, if you're playing these Dodgers. So there's upside in going away from it and riding the 60% chance or whatever it is that they're not going to be one of the top stacks. I think they've got a 30 in the top stacks tool as far as being the probability of not being one of the two stacks. So there is a chance that they're not going to be the top stacks. That's what we have to consider on the other side. We saw them go off last night. I think they are very, very likely to go off again today. But if we can find another team like the Braves that it makes sense to get to when nobody else is on, like they did last night, it's an interesting spot to consider a pivot. Now, again, they're very likely to go off against a pitcher like Chichi Gonzalez. I don't think there's anything to talk about in his arm. But you got to look toward the bottom of the lineup, at least like you asked, to get different with it. You've got Lux down there, Edwin Rios down there as a couple of lefties. I don't have Rios' ownership for some reason popping up, but Lux is only 14.1, $4,400 second baseman. You can work with that. 15% ownership on Austin Barnes as a catcher, righty, but only 3,300 salary. You can work with that to deflect some of the ownership and some of the cost of this stack. But even like Mookie at 61 is not a pay up to be different spot because he's drawing 33% ownership even at that crazy high price. And there are a lot of second tier type starters that we can put together, two $8,000 starters, and make some of these numbers work. So it's really a go, no go decision for me with the Dodgers today. Either you're going to go and you're going to go heavy, or you're going to go and you're going to get well under the field on them and try and get different and try and get to up stacks.
If you're going for any of the Rockies, I'm assuming it's going to be Arenado and Story.
Stories, the Arenados, and then like the lefties that I mentioned. McMahon's not in the lineup, but I would not skip Charlie Blackmon just because of a lefty here. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a 3-man because there's not a ton left. You could get down to Matt Kemp. Maybe Matt Kemp has a personal grudge against his old teammate Clayton Kershaw that he's looking to take out tonight. Baseball doesn't work as that way. There's no such thing as revenge in baseball, but he is there. Nobody's going to him. All right, he is a very good righty against lefties historically. Maybe you could sneak into Kevin Pillar. None of these guys except for Story are drawing ownership, which is the real tale of this situation.
Nice work. You got out of it. All right, oops. Earmuffs. Somehow we have 3 to go. How's this happening? We've got the Twins, Michael Pineda going against the Cubs. You have Alec Mills coming off his no-hitter against the Twins. It is going to be 60 degrees here in Wrigley. We're looking at no wind that we really have to navigate. I'm just not excited about either team in this one. Do you have a strong lean anywhere? I'm okay sprinkling of the bats. I don't feel strongly about a stack. I'm okay sprinkling in the pitchers. 10% probably cap.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with the pitchers as far as, like you said, kind of just sprinkling them in like 10%er type guys. I don't expect a ton out of either one of them. I actually wrote up both sides of this game overnight for the Cubby side and then this afternoon for the Twins side. Both pitchers could put up decent starts and limit these offenses, no doubt about it. Just looking at the top stacks boards, Alex didn't really agree with me on the Cubbies. They're ranked pretty far down, but nobody's really on them. I think there's enough here, and I don't really trust Pineda, but it's another one that you're kind of riding with me and not Alex. I get decent home run marks for the Cubs. A couple of those lefty bats, the Rizzos, the Schwarbers of the world in there, even a Jason Hayward, getting decent marks on them, and they're not prohibitively expensive for such a good lineup. You know, I really like Ian Happ as a switch hitter off the top. He's only 4,700. You can work with a Chris Bryant, a Rizzo, Contreras, Schwarber in there, Javi Baez. All those guys are under 5,000. So I think we can work with some Cubs. The other side of things, I think we can work with some Twins bats. Before we move on, the Cubbies are ninth in baseball with 54 homers against righties, eighth with a 184 ISO, and exactly league average at creating runs. The Twins, fifth in baseball with a 213 ISO against righties, 107 WRC plus, fifth in baseball with 70 home runs against righties this year. Mills is a guy who we talked about limits hard contact. He was on that list I gave earlier. But overall, 4.79 xFIP in his 52 and 2/3 innings, only strikes out 17.5% of hitters, only a 7.7% swinging strike rate. I think there's enough balls in play. I think there's enough power upside for this.
All right, continuing to cruise because we got 11 minutes to go here. Our next game, we still don't have the San Diego Padres lineup. I don't see any key people out. I don't know why they haven't dropped it yet. I would have assumed after not having Clevenger that this one would have popped. Luis Patino coming in at $4,000. Don't hate him against the Mariners. Reminder, even though the Mariners are listed as the home team here, this game is actually in Petco Park. That means that the Padres get a tick of an advantage because they're at their home park and they're going to be batting at the bottom of the inning, so they're guaranteed for 9 rounds. Pardon?
If the Mariners
Sorry,
home team,
reverse that, please. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. I was trying to get up my information here for our friend Justice Sheffield. Thanks to the Yankees. It's a nice little pickup here. How many home runs do you think Sheffield and UC Kikuchi have combined for this to allow this season?
it's either 2 or 3. I forget which.
It's 4. They've each allowed 2 heading into last night. Unfreaking real for both of them, in particular Kikuchi. We're setting that aside. That'll be another fun one to talk about later. So I say for the main slate, Padres are in play as one-offs only, looking for a little home run upside. However, it's going to have to come against the Seattle relievers. The Seattle relievers have been bad. They have the worst xFIP at 5.4, worst Sierra at 4.8, 5th worst ERA at 5.03, 5th worst strikeout rate at, worst, meaning lowest, at 20.9%, and the second highest home run rate at 1.66. Don't feel strongly about a stack, but if we can get to the Mariners relievers, good times. On the other side, Sheffield just been absolutely amazing. 2 home runs. They have come in his last 3 starts, but just 2 this season. That's pretty good. What do you want to talk about from this game?
So I could probably get to a little bit more Padres, I think. I do think Sheffield's been pitching great. I agree with everything that you said. He's got a little bit of an issue with inducing swinging strikes, and he needs to keep the ball on the ground. He's been done a really good job of doing that this year. This Padres lineup is just a little scary for me to really trust him, and I think they've got enough that they can get to the kid. 12th in baseball, 185 ISO, and a 106 WRC plus against lefties. Only 22.9% strikeout rate. They're 7th in baseball with 23 home runs against lefties. And you're getting to this team when there's not a ton of people on, which is what I always like to do. They're a squad that's been pretty popular with their production all year long. And now we can kind of get to them when people aren't. And there's only really 2 very expensive hitters, and we know who they're going to be. It's Tatis and Machado. The rest of this lineup, relatively inexpensive for some of the quality that they can offer. So I can maybe build with some stacks with those Padres, get some Will Myers in there, get some Austin Nola in there, Machado and Tatis, of course. And then a guy like Jorge Mateo. Haven't really seen him getting on base very much yet in his limited 25 plate appearances, but the kid's got 80-grade speed. He flies. So if he gets on or if he hits one in the gap, he's going to be circling the bases. I also like Jerkson Profar picking up from the bottom of that lineup. So grab the 2 guys from the bottom, super cheap, wrap it around to the top. I kind of like that.
All right. How much Patino at 4K?
Since I didn't have time to edit him into my
I'm saying 15%. We have time to
something like that.
Yeah, we have time to adjust. I don't think he's on a pitch count, as best I can tell. Let's see, did we get him in here? So he's
playing for less than a bat, and that's what you want to pick up.
So he's gone 28, 35, 17, and 32. He's gone on September 5th, 29th, 27th, and 23rd of August. That tells me he was mostly a reliever. He's been recalled from the alternative training site. This is courtesy of DK player page. We'll start Saturday. No mention. Unlikely to, here they say, unlikely to have the traditional workload of a starter. I'll give him 40 pitches going against the Mariners at 4K. 15% is my cap. Lets me get in some bats, but I don't want to be hung out to dry on this one because he's not a great pitcher by any stretch.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, and like you said, it's just a matter of getting to him, and if he gives you any kind of positive points at that price, almost you're happy to take it because he allows you to do so much with the bats. That's really what it's.
7 minutes to go. 7:45. We're going live with Adam Scherer to break down NBA tonight. Yeah, we've got it all tonight. NASCAR locks in 45 minutes. MMA is going on right now. We've got baseball. Tomorrow's the NFL. I believe, as the kids say, it's lit. Or as Davis Maddox says, it's lit! It's lit! I don't do a good Davis Maddox voice, but that guy makes me laugh out loud every time I hear him do stuff. I know we don't always like to mention other shows, but damn, that kid's funny. All right, final game of the night, Andrew Haney. Feels like he's sliding into the Clevenger role. It does not feel good.
It doesn't.
What do you want to do? Set us straight, steer us home, Terry.
I mean, Haney's top of the board, third on top starters, drawing quite a bit of ownership before the Clevenger news. So I think he's going to be getting a whole heck of a lot of it, kind of like you were getting at there. He's one of those mid-tier price guys on DK tonight at only 8,300 in this matchup. That's a misprice. So it's tricky because he's going to be so popular, but I think he might even be mandatory as far as what I'm doing tonight. Rangers 21st in baseball with only 14 home runs in 505 plate appearances against lefties this season. The White Sox are second in baseball with 26 in just 452 plate appearances, to put that in perspective. Rangers have a 135 ISO, which is 26 in baseball against lefties, a 58 WRC plus, and a 26.9% strikeout rate. This is an absolute smash spot for Haney, taking ownership out of it. So it's just going to come down to that. I think I'm pretty happy to swallow the ownership in this point.
All right. I can't even recommend anybody going against him. Texas is just a disaster, as Terry just pointed out. Somehow we're only looking at 20. So I'm going to set my pitching exposures real quick. We've got 26% for Bauer. I'm going 35. Corbin Burns is 44%. I'm going to go 50. Haney is 43%. I'm going 50. Lance, oof. What do you want to do with Lance Lynn? Can we get a retro performance here? Can he hold up the Twins? He's averaging 28 DraftKings points in his last two starts.
So the Angels are pretty good against righties. 11th in baseball, 183 ISO, 116 WRC plus, very good. They limit strikeouts, 20.1% strikeout rate, one of the best in baseball in the split. They're very good in the split, draw 11.2% walks. I do like Lynn. He's pitching well, 27.6% strikeouts this year, down a little bit from last year, but up from his career average. 4.22 xFIP, 2.40 ERA, getting a little bit lucky, 11.5% swinging strikes, down from 12.5% last year, but up still again compared to his career. So I think we can roll out some Lynn, but I do like the Angel side of it to maybe get to him.
All right, who's your favorite stack? We got 4 minutes left here.
If we're taking the Dodgers out of it, presumably.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Obviously, Coors Field.
Yeah, I would say either the Yankees or the Braves. Maybe the Yankees or the Braves probably. Well, the Braves. Go with the Braves, just because of the ownership play.
All right. Let's see. I've got 3 minutes. How bad are my lineups going to be tonight?
If I can even get mine
in. Did you get yours in?
I'm just moving some over right now. I'm just going to put a little swap in there so I don't have to worry about it. Just waiting on Fantasy Cruncher to move them for me. Get a little background noise for
me. Let's see. Why not? Let's just load up on the Yankees. Let's go a little bit on Boston. Let's go heavy on the Dodgers. And let's see, let's go 15 there. We don't know what's going on there. Clone. Oh, I'm not going to get my lineups in time. This is going to suck.
Pasting, saving, and then I'll talk while you crunch. Just upload these things. Guys, this is the exciting part of the show. I click and we should be good. All right, so let me talk some home runs. I actually took the time to move the DK pricing over to my home runs since everybody was asking for it.
Oh, good.
For some salary, I like JD Martinez. They had a home run at only 3,100 FanDuel, 4,500 DK. Going down, Jose Altuve gets a decent little home run mark for me in that Astros lineup that we talked about at only 3,800 on DK. Austin Barnes could be sneaky in that Dodgers lineup, as we talked about, as a fairly lowish owned catcher. Get a good mark on him. Trying to get away from that game. I don't know if he's in the starting lineup, but Josh Van Meter gets a decent one, sneaky on that Diamondbacks for only 2,600. Gets a decent little power mark there for me. Looking around, I got Conforto at a decent mark. He's expensive, but not many people going to that team. Bobby Dahlback, who I talked about, has a nice total, nice mark above 10 in my model. 10's kind of the magic number for an above-average chance. Scrolling down a little further here.
I'm not even going to sort my lineups. I'm just letting it ride. God, I hope Tauchman is in the
Yeah.
lineup.
So, yeah, some of those guys, we talked about some sneaky cards. Tyler O'Neill has a nice little mark here. Paul DeJong, getting some of those guys. Paul Goldschmidt, who I know you talked about skipping because he's 5,000, but do get a good home run mark on him. So can't imagine people are, unless you got really fast thumbs, able to change things on your phone. But maybe you can cram one of those guys in your last minute lineup here.
All right, let's hit that like button. Come on, fellas. Get us up to 100 there. We're at lock. I got my line. I have active lineups in. We'll see what happens. EMac wins it all tonight is what they say. Nelson Cruz scratched. Sore knee.
Oh, no.
Thank you, News God. What time is that game? And reminder, in 40 minutes, we're going live with Adam Ship, my money share. You guys can hear what he has to say about tonight's game. Sponsor Yahoo does have 2-day slates, as does DraftKings. I've been playing those. We've got cheat sheets up for those. Definitely want to check that out. And Minnesota goes at 8:15, so we have a hot minute here to fix this mess. Unless you want the 2 games at 7:07, the 2 at 7:10, I'm waving them off as replacements. We'll see what I can get for Cruz there in the later games.
Something else for you to do while you're doing your NASCAR lineups, your hockey lineups, and all those other ones you were telling me.
I did not. Oh, thank you. I got to go do hockey lineups. I did not set batter caps tonight. You ready for fun? Because I.
Oh boy. Where are we at?
65% Mookie Betts.
Who you didn't want to play.
47% for Cody Bellinger.
Okay. Go Dodgers.
39% for number 3 hitter of the Yankees.
Okay.
Edwin Rios, 38. Pollock, 37. Seager, 34. Higashioshi, who's not even going to get a hit tonight after getting 3 home runs. When I said bad things about him, 27%. There we go.
All right. I am.
I have 34% Corey Seager, who is not in the lineup. I did not remove players who are not in the lineup. Yeah, all right. So we're going off air, so I can go fix that. But reminder, we are live in 39 minutes with one Adam Ship, my money share. Shout out to Yahoo for sponsoring the show. Check out the NFL $350,000 baller over there. I tell you, they've got some good stuff. I put up content for it. We have free content. We got projections. We got everything you need. I'm going to leave you guys with the link to the show. You can always find it on my Twitter feed or the Awesemo Twitter feed. The link to the article here for Yahoo, breaking everything down, giving you a hint on how to strategize what you really need to do. With that, good luck, gamers.